Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rangers Respite. I'm Philip, and today is Saturday. That means it's time to look at another Lost Lantern bottling. Um, I've been able to get the spinner wheel thing that helps me pick what I'm reviewing next working. So I've been picking more or less at random, mostly looking at Discovery Club bottlings that I haven't already talked about. And this Saturday, it's the second ever Discovery Club release, 2025 D2, which is a really interesting whiskey out of Missouri. But before I get into it, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the show, if you'd like to support me in a more material fashion, because for the most part, what I do on the show is funded by me. Um, and I would love your help with that. I've got a T Public store where I've got a couple of designs and I have pens, ballpoint twist pens and rollerball pens. These are turned from a French oak cognac cask stave. That cognac cask held cognac for 45 years before being used to finish a peated American single malt whiskey in the Pacific Northwest. If you know, you know. I just noticed something. That's not right. That's not supposed to be there. What is? Ugh. I'm short. My arms are short. I can't reach anything. There. There we go. Much better. Much more consistent. Now, where was I? Oh, right. J. Rieger and Company. This is a distillery out of Kansas City, Missouri. Sorry, Missouri. I should know better. They do some interesting stuff. This particular bottle is a 5-year-old bourbon made from a sweet mash, which means that they're not putting the lees from the previous batch into the wash for this one. It is 56% corn, 30% rye, and 14% malted barley. 5 years old. And as always, it is one of 175 bottles. It's not always 175 bottles, but I like reading off how many bottles were produced. It is bottled at the astonishing strength of 69% alcohol by volume or 138 proof. Really potent there. Not the most potent out of the Discovery Club, but nothing to scoff at. And look at that color. Look at that. Nice sort of ruby color. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not really a big bourbon fan, to be honest. You know, if you know me, you already know that. Um, for the most part, I really genuinely do prefer rye whiskeys. That's sort of where my first love of whiskey is. It's where when I'm not, looking at whiskeys for the single malt frontier. It's where my palate tends to lead me. But this is quite nice. On the nose, there is a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, um, fresh scraped vanilla bean paste. So, when so vanilla has pods like that. That's where the spice vanilla comes from. It's actually an orchid, weirdly enough. But anyway, some very expensive vanilla extracts. Basically, you're taking a relatively neutral spirit, or depending on the brand, sometimes a a fairly nice brandy or other clear fruit spirit. No, either a brandy or a clear grain spirit with very little character. And then you take the vanilla bean pods, you split them down the middle, you flatten them out, and then you take a scraper or a knife and you end up with this like kind of dark brown paste on your knife blade or scraper, which you then put into your fairly sizable container of high quality spirit. Cap it, shake it, stick it in a cool, dry place that is dim, not in direct sunlight, and you wait till it takes on a nice, rich amber color. Then you strain it out, and there you have some very nice, high quality vanilla extract. So the raw vanilla paste, as you scrape it off the beans, there's some of that in there. Slightly bitter vanilla, kind of a weird, not really weird, but kind of a vegetable woody oakiness to it. And a little bit of root beer hard candy on the nose too. Kind of an interesting blend of flavors there. On the palate, it is a bit dry. I will say, it doesn't burn like you would expect a stone's throw from hazmat whiskey to burn, but it definitely doesn't let you forget that it is pretty potent stuff. Hmm. On the palate, the oak really comes to the fore. Some barrel tannin bitterness, more of that like raw vanilla bean paste, less of that like sweeter root beer candy, a little bit more like burnt sugar caramel. And there's a little bit of I don't know how to describe it. Hmm. A little bit of something like I'm at a loss because like I know what it is. I've found it on other things. I have a word for it, but I can't think of the word. Hmm. Hmm. It's neither here nor there. It's a very nice, complex palette. It's not overwhelming with oak. It's not like super heavy on like bright, shiny grain notes that you know kind of come off as like um young and bitey. The finish though is where I find it to be a little bit of a letdown. The finish, it starts off real nice with that like deep rich vanilla, some like burnt caramel and a little bit of like wood sugar and wood bitter combined, and it just a very nice solid bourbon note, and then it just sort of vanishes. And there's very little left on the finish. And personally, I like a nice lingering finish and an oily product. Um, and this just isn't really that way, and that's okay. Mm. Still trying to figure out what that note is. I mean, I know what it is. I'm trying to think of the word for it though. Anyway, enough rambling. I always ask and answer three questions. The first one being, do I enjoy it? Yeah, actually, a whole lot. Um, most of the Discovery Club has been bourbons, and all of them have been very good bourbons. But I think of the bourbons, this one might be my favorite. have to think on that, but it is an exceptional whiskey. Pretty much everything that Lost Lantern puts out is of very high quality. There are no bad whiskeys in their lineup. But this is very, very good stuff. The next question. Do I think it is a good value? Yes. I would say that this is worth the admission. I like to say that I have not been disappointed by a single Discovery Club offering, but mileage may vary. Sort of for example, maybe um, uh, maybe the St. Augustine didn't really grab you, and maybe you didn't think it was really worth all that money. But this Days to File, worth every penny and then some. And the New Holland and the Painted Stave all together, those three, take up all the slack for the ones that you were less impressed by. And, maybe that isn't the case. But I genuinely feel like, even when it's not a whiskey that is a favorite of mine, even if it's not one that really, knocks my socks off, it's always worth the price of admission with the Discovery Club. It's just my personal opinion. Anyway, with all that out of the way. Oh no, wait, there's one last question. Do I recommend it? Yeah. I really do recommend the Discovery Club. Falls into the category of this is a way to try whiskeys from distilleries that you may never have heard of, like Days to File, or whiskeys that you may not think to try, like the Painted Stave pot still whiskey. I was aware of Painted Stave. I was aware of the fact that they make a Irish pot still style whiskey. I don't think I would have picked it up had one of them not come into Discovery Club, because typically it's not my favorite style of whiskey, and with so many other fantastic craft distilleries out there making fantastic craft whiskey, I may have just skipped that one, But I'm really glad that I got it, because it is a really good, fantastic whiskey and a really interesting look at what a pot still style whiskey can be at relatively high proof and with some time in interesting oak. With all that out of the way now, finally, next week, what have I not reviewed yet? Oh, I know. Next week I'll talk about that Corbin Cash Rye. I think that's all good. Heads up, Monday is going to be the start of a new series for me on Mondays. Every Monday, I'm going to look at a blind sample, courtesy of my friend Randall of Off Topic Whiskey, and I'm going to take some notes, kind of maybe give a guess about what I think it is. And then on week number 5, we're going to do a video together, and we're going to look at the last sample, and he's going to laugh at how wildly off I am on all the sample guesses. With all that out of the way, that's Monday. Wednesday is Reverend Small Batch Bourbon, and we'll see what Friday is. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming in and sitting with me while I ramble about whiskey. And until next time, stay happy, stay geeks, Snatcha.